Luke Mercer knew the woman stepping off the train was not the bride he had sent for. He stood on the wooden platform of Coldwater Crossing with his hat in one hand and a folded photograph in the other. The afternoon wind came down from the Montana peaks sharp enough to cut through his coat, carrying coal smoke, dust, and the smell of wet pine from the hills beyond town. The photograph showed a woman named Anna Reed, fair hair, round face, calm eyes, a careful smile. The woman who stepped down from the passenger car had dark auburn hair tucked beneath a worn brown bonnet, a pale face drawn tight with fear, and green eyes that kept looking past him as if danger had followed the train all the way from Omaha. She clutched one small carpetbag to her chest. Luke looked at the photograph again. Then he looked at her. She saw the picture in his hand, and all the color left her face. "Mr. Mercer?" she asked softly. His jaw tightened. "That depends on who is asking." The station went quiet around them. A porter rolled a trunk across the boards. Two cattlemen near the freight office stopped talking. Mrs. Martha Boone, who ran the boarding house across the street, watched from beneath the brim of her black bonnet. The young woman swallowed hard. "My name is Evelyn Hart." That name meant nothing to him. Luke folded the photograph slowly and slid it into his coat pocket. "Then, you are not Anna Reed?" "No." One word, bare, honest, terrified. A bitter laugh almost rose in his throat, but he held it down. He had waited 18 months before answering that mail-order notice. 18 months after burying his wife, after watching half his ranch burn, after sleeping in a house that smelled of smoke and silence. He had not asked for beauty. He had not asked for softness. He had asked for truth. Now a stranger stood before him, wearing someone else's place. "Did she send you?" he asked. Evelyn shook her head. "No, I thought she was sending me to work." "To work?" "At a ranch, as a housekeeper." Her fingers tightened around the carpetbag handle. "I did not know about the bride arrangement until yesterday." Luke stared at her. "That is a hard thing to believe." "I know." The simple answer caught him more than any excuse would have. Behind her the train whistle screamed. Evelyn flinched so hard that Luke noticed. Her eyes moved toward the last car, then toward the road beyond the station. "You afraid of someone?" he asked. She opened her mouth, then closed it. That was answer enough. The conductor called for final boarding. Steam rolled along the platform. For 1 second, Luke thought about putting her right back on that train. It would be the cleanest answer, the safest answer. Send the wrong woman away and write to the agency by morning. But then a man in a gray coat stepped down from the rear passenger car. He was tall and narrow, with a polished cane, city boots too clean for Coldwater Crossing, and eyes that searched the platform like a wolf scenting blood. Evelyn saw him. Her breath caught. Luke shifted half a step in front of her before he had time to think. The man's eyes passed over them once, then returned. He smiled, but there was no kindness in it. "Miss Hart," he called. Evelyn whispered, "Please." Luke did not turn around. "Who is he?" "Silas Crow's man." That name landed heavy. Everyone in Montana cattle country knew Silas Crow, railroad investor, land buyer, a man who could make a poor family rich or ruin them before breakfast. The gray-coated man started toward them. Luke put his hat back on. "Walk with me," he said. Evelyn looked up at him, startled. "You said you needed work," Luke continued. "Walk like you belong beside me." "I don't." "Today you do." They moved off the platform together. Luke did not touch her, but he kept himself between her and the man with the cane. Across the street, Martha Boone opened the boarding house door and stood waiting like she had already guessed trouble had come off the train. The gray-coated man called again. "Miss Hart, Mr. Crow only wishes to speak with you." Evelyn's voice shook. "He never only wishes to speak." Luke stopped beside his wagon. The man was close now. "Mr. Mercer, I believe this woman has caused a misunderstanding." Luke looked at him. "You know my name." "Most people do," the man smiled. "Widower, ranch owner, fire trouble last winter, looking for a new wife, I hear." Luke's hand curled around the wagon rail. Evelyn went still beside him. The stranger tipped his hat. "Hand her over, and I will make sure your trouble ends before it begins." Luke's eyes hardened. "She is not a sack of flour. She is wanted for fraud." Evelyn whispered, "That is a lie." The man ignored her. "She has been traveling under another woman's papers." Luke turned his head slightly toward Evelyn. "Is that true?" Her eyes filled, but she did not look away. "Yes, but not the way he means." There it was, not innocence, not guilt, something tangled between the two. The old Luke, the one before the fire, might have asked more questions. The man he had become did not like being pushed by strangers in fine coats. "This matter can wait," Luke said. "It cannot." "It will." The stranger's smile faded. Luke opened the wagon door. "Get in, Miss Hart." Evelyn hesitated only a second before climbing up. The man lowered his voice. "You are making a mistake." Luke looked at him coldly. "I have made plenty. One more won't scare me." He climbed into the wagon, gathered the reins, and snapped them once. The horses pulled forward, wheels grinding over dirt and old snowmelt. Evelyn sat rigid beside him, her carpetbag on her lap, her face turned toward the road. For a long while neither of them spoke. Coldwater Crossing slipped behind them, then the church, then the blacksmith shop, then the last row of houses. Only when the town was small behind them did Luke speak. "You have until my ranch gate to tell me why a railroad man is chasing you." Evelyn looked down at her hands. "My father owed money before he died," she said. "Not to a bank, to Crow. I tried to work it off, but the debt kept growing. Then a woman came to me with papers, travel money, and a promise of honest employment in Montana." "Anna Reed." Evelyn nodded. "She said she could not come west, but a ranch needed help. She gave me the ticket. I thought she was saving me." Luke's mouth tightened. "And now?" "Now I think she sold my name, my travel, and my silence to Crow." The horses slowed as the road climbed toward Mercer Ranch. The mountains rose ahead, blue and hard against the sky. A black scar still marked the far ridge where the fire had taken his north pasture. Luke saw Evelyn notice it. "My ranch burned last winter," he said. "I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry yet. You may not be staying." Her face lowered, but she nodded. "I understand." That quiet answer bothered him. They reached the ranch gate near sundown. The house stood beyond it, rebuilt in fresh pine beside the old stone chimney that had survived the fire. A barn leaned under patchwork repairs. Smoke rose from the kitchen pipe. It should have looked like a place beginning again. Instead, it looked like a place trouble had found. Luke stopped the wagon at the gate. He should have told her to get down. He should have taken her to Martha Boone's boarding house and let the sheriff sort it out. But he remembered the way she had flinched at the station. He remembered Crow's man calling her a thing to be handed over. And he remembered what it felt like when everyone believed the worst before hearing the truth. "You can sleep in the small room off the kitchen tonight," he said. "Door has a bolt, use it." Evelyn looked at him, as if kindness hurt more than anger. "Why are you helping me?" Luke stared toward the darkening road behind them. "Because I don't know yet if you lied to me," he said, "but I know that man did." A faint sound carried from the distance. Hoofbeats. Fast ones. Luke turned. Down the road, 3 riders appeared against the last red light of evening, heading straight for his ranch. Evelyn's hand flew to the pocket of her coat. Luke saw the shape hidden there. Not papers. Not money. A silver pocket watch. His pocket watch. The one buried in the ashes after his wife died. The silver pocket watch in Evelyn Hart's coat should have been impossible. Luke Mercer had buried that watch in his wife's ashes the morning after the fire. He remembered kneeling beside the blackened stone chimney, digging through wet soot with bare hands until he found the twisted silver case. The glass had cracked, the chain had blackened, and the engraved letters on the back had been nearly lost beneath smoke. LM to CM forever. He had placed it in a small cedar box and buried it under the cottonwood near the old house. Now the shape of it pressed against Evelyn's coat while riders came hard up his road. Luke's voice dropped. "Give me what is in your pocket." Evelyn froze. "Now." Her trembling hand slid into the coat and pulled out the watch. Even in the falling light, Luke knew it. The dent near the hinge, the burned mark across the back, the broken chain. His face went cold. "Where did you get that?" Evelyn's eyes filled with panic. "It was in the packet Anna gave me." "The woman I sent for." "Yes." Luke took the watch from her hand. For a moment, all he could hear was the hoofbeats growing closer and the blood pounding in his ears. "You expect me to believe that?" "No," she whispered, "but it is true." The three riders stopped outside the gate. The man in the gray coat sat in front, his polished cane laid across his saddle. Two rougher men waited behind him with rifles resting low. "Mr. Mercer," the gray-coated man called. "No need for trouble. Send Miss Hart out with the item she stole." Luke closed his fist around the watch. Evelyn turned pale. "He knows." Luke looked at her. "What is this?" "I don't know. I swear I don't. Anna told me to keep it safe until I reached the ranch. She said the owner would know it." The gray-coated man smiled from the road. "That watch belongs to Mr. Crow." Luke stepped down from the wagon. "No," he said, "it belongs to me." The smile vanished. For the first time, the man looked uncertain. Luke walked to the gate with one hand near the rifle hanging in the wagon boot. "Tell Silas Crow if he wants something from my land, he can come himself." "You are protecting a thief." "I am protecting my property." The rider leaned forward. "You do not understand what she has brought to your door." "I understand enough." The men behind him shifted their rifles. Luke did not move. He had stood in worse places than his own ranch road with fear pressing at his ribs. At last the gray-coated man pulled his horse back. "Tomorrow at noon, Crow will be at the town auction. He will expect the watch, the woman, and an apology." Luke opened the gate. "He can expect rain in August too. Doesn't mean he'll get it." The riders turned and vanished into the dusk. Only then did Evelyn breathe. Luke faced her, inside. She followed him into the rebuilt house, carrying her carpet bag like a shield. The kitchen smelled of coffee, pine boards, and fresh stove ash. Luke set the silver watch on the table between them. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then he said, "That watch was buried on this ranch." Evelyn's voice was quiet. Then someone dug it up. The words struck harder than he expected. He sat down slowly. Someone had come onto his land. Someone had found the grave beneath the cottonwood. Someone had taken the last thing he had kept from the life before the fire. And somehow that same thing had traveled east, into the hands of Anna Reed, then back west with Evelyn Hart. Luke looked at her across the table. "Start from the beginning, leave nothing out." So she did. She told him about her father's debt, about Crow's men coming every month with new numbers written in a ledger, about the work she took in a laundry until her hands cracked from lye. She told him about Anna Reed appearing at the rooming house with kind eyes and a ticket west. Anna had said a Montana rancher needed a housekeeper while waiting for his bride. Evelyn could earn good wages, enough to settle the debt, enough to disappear. She knew I was desperate, Evelyn said, and I believed her because I wanted to. Luke leaned back. Did Anna know Crow? I think so now. Before he could answer, someone knocked hard at the kitchen door. Evelyn flinched. Luke took the rifle from beside the stove and opened the door. Martha Boone stood outside, cheeks red from the cold, carrying a basket and wearing the expression of a woman who had already decided she was not leaving. I saw Crow's riders come this way, she said, so I brought bread, stew, and common sense. Luke lowered the rifle. Martha stepped inside, looked at Evelyn, then at the watch on the table. Her face changed. Where did that come from? Luke's eyes narrowed. You know it. Martha set the basket down slowly. I saw that watch after the fire. Luke went still. She swallowed, and I saw Sela's crow near your burned house the next morning. The room seemed to shrink. Luke's voice was flat. Why did you never tell me? Because I thought he came to offer help, because half the town was there, because I did not know it mattered until now. Evelyn reached for the chair to steady herself. Then Crow had it first. Martha nodded. Looks that way. By morning, the three of them rode into town together. Luke wore his old black coat. Evelyn sat beside him with her chin lifted, though her hands shook in her lap. Martha followed in her own buggy, looking ready to fight a church committee or a hanging judge. Coldwater Crossing was already crowded for the spring auction. Wagons lined the street. Farmers, ranchers, shopkeepers, and railroad men gathered around the raised platform near the livery. Sela's Crow stood at the center of it all. He was broad-shouldered, silver-haired, and dressed too fine for mud. When he saw Evelyn, his smile spread slowly. There she is, he called, the woman traveling under false papers. Every head turned. Evelyn stiffened. Luke stepped beside her. Crow lifted a hand. This woman came west pretending to be another man's bride. She carries stolen property. She is part of a fraud against honest investors and decent citizens. Murmurs rolled through the crowd. Luke held up the silver watch. This is the stolen property. Crow's eyes flashed. Yes. Luke turned the watch over. Then explain why my initials are on the back. The murmurs stopped. Martha Boone pushed through the crowd. And explain why I saw you near his burned house the morning after the fire. Crow's smile tightened, but he did not break. Grief makes people remember strangely. Evelyn stepped forward, voice shaking but clear. Anna Reed gave me that watch. She said the rancher would know it. She sent me here so Crow could follow me and claim I stole it. Crow laughed, a desperate woman inventing desperate lies. Then he pointed at her. Sheriff, arrest her. The sheriff moved uncertainly. Luke stepped in front of Evelyn. No one touches her. The crowd held its breath. Crow leaned closer, his voice sharp enough for everyone to hear. You are defending a woman who lied her way into your house. Luke looked at Evelyn, then at the watch in his palm. She came to me under a lie, he said, but I am starting to believe the lie was built by someone else. Evelyn's eyes filled. Crow's face darkened. You will regret this. Luke took one step toward him. Maybe, but I have regretted silence before. Wait, before we move on, what do you think about the story so far? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm really curious to know. Just then, a boy from the telegraph office shoved through the crowd, waving a yellow slip. Mr. Mercer, he shouted, message from Omaha. Luke took it and read the first line. His blood went cold. Anna Reed had been found dead near the rail depot, and the last name written in her notebook was Sela's Crow. The name Sela's Crow on Anna Reed's notebook changed everything. Luke Mercer read the telegram twice while the whole town watched him. The yellow paper trembled slightly in his hand, though his face stayed hard. Evelyn stood beside him, pale as winter cloth, her eyes fixed on the words as if they had reached out and struck her. Anna Reed was dead. The woman Luke had expected to marry. The woman who had sent Evelyn west under false papers. The woman who had carried his stolen watch from Crow's hands into a trap no one yet understood. Silas Crow stepped down from the auction platform. A sad matter if true, but it proves nothing. Luke folded the telegram slowly. It proves she had reason to fear you. Crow's smile disappeared. Careful, Mercer. The sheriff looked from Crow to Luke, uncertain and sweating beneath his hat. Half the town had gone silent. Even the horses tied along the rail seemed still. Evelyn turned to the sheriff. Anna used me because she was afraid. I think she knew something about Mr. Crow. Crow laughed once. You think a frightened laundry girl and a burned-out rancher can stand against me? Martha Boone pushed beside Evelyn, maybe not alone. That was when old Mr. Keene from the telegraph office hurried forward, breathing hard. There was a second message. It came just after the first. He handed Luke another slip. Luke read it. His eyes lifted toward the rail depot at the far end of town. What is it? Evelyn whispered. Anna left a package in the freight room, Luke said, marked for me. Crow moved before anyone else did. He turned sharply to his two men. Get to the depot. Luke grabbed Evelyn's hand. Run. They broke through the crowd as shouts rose behind them. Martha called for the sheriff to follow. Boots hammered over the wooden walk. The spring sky had darkened fast over Coldwater Crossing, and thunder rolled behind the mountains. The rail depot stood near the edge of town, its freight doors half open, lanterns swinging in the wind. Crow's men reached it first. One kicked open the freight room door while the other struck a match. Luke saw the flame. No. He shoved Evelyn behind a stack of crates and rushed forward. The first man turned with a pistol in hand, but Luke hit him hard across the jaw. The pistol fell. The second man threw the match onto a pile of packing straw. Fire climbed fast. Smoke filled the freight room. Evelyn coughed, then saw a small wooden crate on the clerk's desk. Mercer was burned into the side with black ink. She ran for it. Luke shouted her name, but she was already inside. Heat rolled across her face. She grabbed the crate with both hands. It was heavier than she expected. Behind her, Crow appeared in the smoke, his fine coat dark with rain. You should have stayed poor and quiet, he said. Evelyn clutched the crate, like Anna. Crow's eyes went cold. She wanted money, he said. Then she wanted a conscience. I have no use for either when they come too late. The words were all she needed. Luke heard them from the doorway. So did the sheriff. Crow turned and saw both men standing there. For the first time, fear crossed his face. Then a burning beam cracked overhead. Luke lunged forward, caught Evelyn around the waist, and pulled her back as the beam crashed where she had stood. The crate fell between them but did not break. Smoke swallowed the room. The sheriff dragged Crow by the collar while Martha and two townsmen hauled water from the trough. Outside, rain finally broke from the sky. It came hard and cold, beating dust into mud, hissing against the depot fire. Luke carried the crate beneath the platform roof and set it down. Evelyn leaned against a post, coughing, her face streaked with soot. You went back in, Luke said, anger and fear mixed together. So did you. That is not the same. It is exactly the same. For one breath, they simply looked at each other. Then Luke opened the crate. Inside were land deeds, debt ledgers, signed statements, and a packet of letters from Anna Reed. The truth lay there in ink and paper. Crow had bought debts from poor families, changed numbers, forced women into false work arrangements, and used stolen property to frame anyone who could expose him. Luke's fire had not been an accident. Crow had wanted his north pasture for the rail spur, and when Luke refused to sell, the fire came. Anna had helped Crow at first. Then she had tried to undo it. She sent Evelyn west with the watch because Luke was the only man who could prove where it came from. The sheriff read enough to turn gray. By sunset, Sila's Crow was locked in the jail behind the courthouse. His men were held with him. The town that had whispered against Evelyn now stood awkwardly in the mud, unsure how to meet her eyes. Luke did not ask them to apologize. Martha did. One by one they did. Evelyn listened quietly. She had spent too many years being blamed for other people's sins to trust sudden kindness. But when Luke stood beside her, steady and silent, she felt something inside her stop running. 2 weeks later, word came from Omaha confirming Anna's notebook, Crow's ledgers, and the fraud. Anna Reed was buried under her own name. Evelyn sent money for a proper stone, though she had little to spare. Luke said nothing when she did it. He only drove her to the telegraph office and waited outside. Spring warmed the Montana Valley. Luke's north pasture was cleared. The depot was repaired. Evelyn stayed at Mercer Ranch first as a housekeeper, then as something no one in town dared name too quickly. She worked hard. She laughed rarely at first, then more often. She learned the shape of the land, the sound of Luke's boots on the porch, the way his silence could mean peace instead of anger. One evening, as golden light touched the rebuilt house, Luke found her in the entryway holding the silver pocket watch. "I should give this back," she said. Luke looked at the watch, then at her. "I buried it because I thought my life was over." Her fingers tightened around the chain. "And now?" He stepped closer. "Now I think some things are not meant to stay buried." Evelyn's eyes filled, but she smiled. They married in June, not because a mail-order arrangement demanded it, but because both had chosen it with clear eyes. No one mistook her for another woman that day. No one spoke Anna Reed's name with shame. Martha Boone cried openly in the front pew and denied it afterward. That evening, inside the completed ranch house entryway, Luke and Evelyn hung the silver pocket watch on a wooden wall hook beside their wedding photograph. Morning would come soon enough with work, weather, and all the ordinary troubles of frontier life. But that night the house held no lie. Only two people who had stopped running from the past and begun building a future from the truth.